I'm making this video to hype up the Jaguars rookie wide receiver one, Brian Thomas Jr. Now, guys, this video is brought to you by BetUS, and it's crazy, guys. When you look at the odds for Brian Thomas Jr. on Offensive Rookie of the Year, he actually has a fourth highest odds amongst rookies, which is crazy. Second amongst wide receiver, but this is a quarterback award, but he is at plus 2,000 right now, so I might just throw $10 on this one just to see what happens. Hey, might as well. And if you guys want to do the same, you can hit up betus.com and use promo code YouTube150. That's going to get you a 150% deposit bonus on your first deposit and 125% deposit bonus on your second and thirds. Supporting the sponsor helps support the channel, so big shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this video and this channel this football season. Now, with all that said, let's go ahead and talk about Brian Thomas Jr. Now, the Jaguars haven't had really the best history of wide receivers. When you look at just Jaguars wide receivers that have hit 1,000 yards receiving, you have Jimmy Smith, Keenan McCardell, Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns, DJ Chark, Christian Kirk, and Calvin Ridley. So amongst that list, you really only have two players that really did it consistently, and that's Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell, and those were both in the 90s. Right now we're in the 2020s, so that was so long ago. But then you kind of had blips, like Allen Robinson was a blip, Allen Hurns was a blip, DJ Chark, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley. All these guys were kind of blips on the Jaguars' radar. And also, when you turn that around and look at Jaguars' first-round pick wide receivers, you have R.J. Howard, Reggie Williams, Matt Jones, and Justin Blackmon. Just a list of guys that not only just didn't really put it together for the Jaguars on the field, they all had myriads of issues off the fields when it comes to just abuse of different substances. So, yeah, it has been very good. And, man, the Jaguars have been looking for a wide receiver one for forever. We all remember, like, is Allen Hurns that guy, or is Allen Robinson that guy? He wasn't that guy. You know, we drafted Justin Blackmon way back in the day, and we kept trying to find the wide receiver one. There's Christian Kirk, a wide receiver one. Well, he hit 1,000 yards one year, but maybe not. And then the Jaguars were kind of in an interesting situation this offseason because we were like, we need our wide receiver one. It's time to stop messing around. And the Jaguars kind of tried to sign Calvin Ridley. Now, Calvin Ridley had a really weird situation where if you signed him before free agency started, you were going to give up a second-round pick. But if you waited until the free agency window opened and you signed him, you're only going to give up a third-round pick. And Trent Baalke and them were all ready to do that. And I think Calvin Ridley was ready to sign back on with the Jaguars. But then the Titans kind of came in last minute, offered him a lot more money. So that whole thing was out the window. And the Jaguars were kind of scrambling. Okay, all the wide receivers were gone. And then the Jaguars were in a situation where in April we were talking about, okay, do we make a trade for a wide receiver? You know, T. Higgins was a guy that was being talked about a lot, even though the Bengals never really admitted they wanted to trade him, and I don't think they ever really did. But the big thing was Brandon Ayuk. The 49ers and them were having some contract disputes. It was all about, should the Jaguars trade a first-round pick? A first-round pick was going to be the cost. So trade a first-round pick away and then sign him to a bunch of money. So that was the situation that the Jaguars were in. And then as the offseason was going on, I was like, you know what? The Jaguars can always draft their own wide receiver. I know it really hasn't worked out, but just get some scouting in there. You look at the history of these NFL drafts, wide receivers are kind of found all over the place. And very rarely does like the whole list of like, you know, where wide receivers were drafted, very rarely does that end up being the actual power rankings of how good those guys are in the NFL. So I was like, look, there's going to be a good wide receiver in this draft. And for the Jaguars, I picked number 17. You know, the draft day came. The Jaguars actually moved back from 17 to 23, picked up a bunch of picks, including a third-round pick, and were able to draft Brian Thomas Jr. at pick number 23 overall. And Brian Thomas Jr. has been having a monster season so far. If you look at him, he has 30 receptions on the year, which is second amongst rookies, 513 yards receiving, first amongst rookies, 4 touchdowns, first amongst rookies, and 193 yards after catch, which is also first amongst rookies. Right now, he is on pace for 64 receptions for 1,246 yards and 10 touchdowns. So that's really crazy. He leads rookie receivers in all these different categories. He's also 6th in the NFL in yardage. So take away the rookie tag, he has the 6th most receiving yards of any player in the NFL. And it's crazy because when you looked at the 2024 NFL draft, there were kind of tiers to it. It was like, okay, you had the top three receivers and Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze. Then there's a gap, and then there's like Brian Thomas Jr., A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, and Keon Coleman. That was the chatter, okay? And I was one of those people that, like, a bunch of people were debating, oh, A.D. Mitchell is that guy. We need to get Keon Coleman. I was always on a Brian Thomas Jr. train just because I saw the upside. I saw the fact that he's a deep threat, he's a sideline threat, and he's a, middle of the field threat. He's got all the speed in the world. I saw what this guy had. And really, now the tier is like, he is up in that top three receiver tier. He has definitely separated himself from that second wave of receivers that win the draft, and he is one of the top dudes. He is going to be a spectacular player in the NFL. And the crazy thing is, like, he still has a lot of work to do. Like, he still hasn't moved into his full form, and it's going to be crazy to see, like, where this guy is in year 3 and year 4. That's what's so exciting. And also, like, the fact that you were able to draft him and you didn't have to trade a first-round pick away and turn around and pay him a bunch of money, like, that was a big thing about having to trade for a guy. Now the Jaguars have a really good wide receiver that's under a cheap contract that the Jaguars can actually build around. Like, he's one guy that I can't see any receiver option outside of Brian Thomas Jr. that I'm positive will be on the Jaguars in 5 years. You know what I mean? Brian Thomas Jr., he's a true building block. He's one of those guys, like, you look at Trevor Lawrence as a building block, Brian Thomas Jr. is a building block, Tyson Campbell, Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker, all these guys are true building blocks for the Jaguars, and that's what you need. So, it's fun to watch him. Like, he's a guy that, finally we have a guy that can catch deep contested balls. It feels like so many times for the Jaguars, throughout, especially like Trevor Lawrence's career, it's like you have a deep throw, but if there's any kind of like contested catch, the Jaguars weren't coming down with it. You saw that catch last weekend against the Patriots, when he was lined up against Gonzalez, just perfect coverage. The cornerback had his hand in there. It should not have been a catch, but Trevor Lawrence put the ball where it needed to be put. Brian Thomas Jr. caught it even with a guy all over him, and that's going to be dangerous. It's going to be dangerous to see this, as Trevor Lawrence starts to trust him more, just this duo get the form, and that was the big thing. That's why when we were debating whether we get a cornerback or wide receiver, I was like, the Jaguars need to finally draft a wide receiver that Trevor Lawrence can grow with. You know what I mean? Like, he hadn't really had that. Like, Christian Kirk is fine, but he's not an elite receiver. Evan Ingram's a tight end. Like, he hasn't had that. When you look around at all the young quarterbacks, Joe Burrow has his Jamar Chase. You look around at all the different young quarterbacks, Tua has his Tyreek Hill. Like, you need to get your quarterback weapons, and finally they have that in Brian Thomas Jr., and it's going to be a lot of fun, and he's obviously got tons of improvement to go. But that's the really exciting thing, is that he hasn't hit his full potential, and I'm so excited to see that we're not even halfway through the year. And really, as the Jaguars start to, get him more involved and start to get him more plays and really start trying to test him more, I think they should keep testing him deep some more. If you see that he's single covered and doesn't have safety help over the top, throw it up. See if he can get it. We finally have a guy that can go out there and get mean and get after the ball. Throw it, try some back shoulder stuff in the end zone. It's just, it's a lot of fun. I'm really glad that it seems like this pick has worked out, especially in a draft class that right now, Mason Smith is getting healthy scratch. Jordan Jefferson, a 4th-round pick, finally got called up. Jarian Jones has been, up and down, but, we know that we hit on the number 23 overall pick in this draft, and we all want to have a good offense, and we all want to have a good quarterback. And, Trevor Lawrence has improved these last 3 games. So Jaguars have a lot of work to do. They're 2-5. I think they need to win 4 out of their next 5 to really get back in it. And then we'll see what happens. But season is still pretty young. We're definitely down in the count. But, even though there's a lot of negative stuff going on with the Jaguars right now, an overwhelming positive is that, Brian Thomas Jr. seems like that wide receiver one that we've been talking about for so long, that we've been dreaming about, we've been hoping for. We finally have him here. So let's protect him at all costs. Let's feature him as much as he can. Let's allow him to be, top rookie receiver in all these different stats. And let's ride. I'm really, really excited about him. Let me know what you guys think. Shout out to BetUS. Like I said, guys, he has the 4th highest odds to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's definitely a quarterback stat, but, you know, throw $10 on it, see what you guys can get. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed it, please drop a like for me. We're on the road to 20,000 subscribers, so if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to me. Love to hit that mark before the end of the year. And thank you guys for watching. Go Jags.